For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really
run out of time, and we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Saturday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Who or what are you celebrating today? For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. My show is all about celebrating life, celebrating art, celebrating whatever it is that you can find to celebrate today. As you can see, I'm wearing purple tonight. That's our color because today is National Purple Day. And we wear purple today because it's in recognition of epilepsy. This day was recognized for people who do suffer from epilepsy as a day of remembrance and a day of recognition. I have a cousin who has epilepsy, and so I grew up knowing what it was all about. So we take time to think of those who live with it. And if you can ever contribute to any organizations or anything that do epilepsy research, this is a time to think about that. I also want to take a moment to say that I celebrate Penguin Rep Theater right here in Stony Point in Rockland County, New York. This afternoon, I went to see the most incredible one-man show called Small. It's closing tomorrow, but it's the story of a young man who was bullied, who was a jockey, who became a famous Broadway dancer. And boy, talk about a star-studded audience. To be in an audience with Chita Rivera and Karen Ziamba and Beth Fowler, oh my God, what a great afternoon. And it made me even more excited because I love the arts and I love celebrating great artists. And boy, do we have a great artist to celebrate tonight. I am such a fan of Daryl Sherman, and I have been a fan of Daryl Sherman since I first heard her sing. Here she is. She's with us this evening. And, you know, Rhode Island is famous for so many incredible things. Nicholas King, Mike Renzi, Daryl Sherman. She's with us this evening. Daryl, this is Richard Skipper Celebrates. So I'm going to begin by asking, who or what are you celebrating today?
Well, okay. You asked me to find a picture of when I was 5, and I couldn't find anything like that. But we've just had Purim, if you're Jewish. So not that I should really be showing this picture, but here I am with my cousin Diane in the Queen Esther parade. Okay,
you have to pull it up a little bit more so that we can see it. Oh, okay. Hold it up a little bit more. Oh, there you are.
It's a long time ago. And you know, the preferred and traditional pastry is Hamantaschen, which is filled with purple because it's prunes.
Yes.
So I'm celebrating that. And I am celebrating our first celebration with purple wine, Côte d'Aron.
That worked for me.
Okay.
And, you know, and we're going to do a giveaway tonight because we're giving away actually.
Hang on. Close my doors. Okay.
She's closing the closet doors, folks.
Yes. Well, there's a further surprise, but we don't want it running out.
No, but the phrase that that we're talking about tonight is financial stability. You and I are both in a business where we are lucky if financial stability is ever a part of our lives. And forgive me for going here, but is financial stability a part of your life? It's certainly not a part of mine.
a part of my life, meaning have I been stable?
Financially.
I've probably been more financially stable than mentally stable.
Same here. You know, for me, it's probably the other way around.
I have never been, successful with monetary issues enough to own even a magnificent piano, let alone a house or anything. But I have to say that even before I moved to New York, which was in the mid-'70s, because I am able to sing and play the piano, and from an early age learned lots of the standards which you could really get away with then. My father was a musician. I've always had a chance to work somewhere and actually get paid for it. Never a lot of money. No, never a lot of money. So I never had to borrow from a friend or anything like that. I just had to cut back a lot of times. To be frank, even through this pandemic, I was one of the lucky ones. Some of my colleagues also were able to get on that freelance for freelancers, a little bit of some help, although I think we have to give it back. Now I've been doing my taxes. But I would just say I'm luckier than many, but I certainly grew up, even, my parents were the generation also, they never took anything for granted. And, we didn't have the fanciest clothes or the fanciest toys or anything, but we got by. So that's my answer.
Well, that's great. But you've got a gift, and we're going to talk about that gift in more depth as we go on. I always begin my shows with a random question, a question that I haven't even looked at yet, believe it or not. I told you this is a fun interview. And the first question, and here it is, it's a random question. And the question is, if you could have any celebrity be your best friend, who would you pick? And I know that you've got a lot of celebrity friends, but if there's a celebrity that you've never met that you would like to be a celebrity friend, who would that celebrity friend be, and who and why?
Oh gosh. Oh boy, that's an interesting question, particularly now. Particularly in, well, I was I was just checking. I don't do that much watching of Netflix or anything that isn't on my meager. Speaking of financial stability, I refuse to pay for even TCM. What? $30 more a month? Forget it. But I did get hooked on Bridgerton, and I was disappointed to find out that in this second episode, the Duke of Hastings, that hot actor,
that everyone's talking about.
Well, yeah, and I didn't realize. I thought it was that the person who actually wrote the novel on which this was based just decided that this is a family saga. Now we got those two married off. Now we're going to deal with somebody else. But no, now I'm coming to find out that it's because he probably wanted more money. So I'd like to get friendly with him.
And why not?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that
it was just a random thought.
I'm glad that I pulled this question up, because this gives me a great starting point for us to go into the trajectory of your life and career. Because you have had this incredible career with this great gift that you have. And of course, it's which came first, the piano playing or the singing?
I was told that I was singing along with whatever was on the radio Apparently, my biggest hit was "On Top of Old Moki." I couldn't pronounce the S then. But anyway, I could sing before I could talk. So apparently that did come first. But at an early age, I think due to my father, mostly because he was a musician and he was a professional musician, he had an organ that was down in our basement, and he showed me that keyboard. And then eventually we got what I always called a junky upright, an old, upright grand with paint spots from the people who had it last. And he didn't play the piano. He wasn't a pianist, but he showed me how to articulate just even playing, a 5-note cluster. And little by little, just forming chords, not even reading notes of music. I did that in school, but triads, as we call them, to accompany myself singing, not just playing a melody. And so it was very, it was very simple stuff that I was doing, but it's as long as I can remember, I was sitting at a piano, and it had to do with putting my hands down on some clusters of notes and singing along. And you know what? I made a career out of that. I'm still doing it.
You certainly have.
I'm doing it now. I'm not, although this is new for me. This is probably on a series of gigs, let's just say. I have done lots of solo piano, but right now I am so lucky. I'm working 5 days at it's called the Park Avenue Plaza. And the piano is kind of centered in this long, very lovely, beautiful, high ceiling lobby. And I play from 12 to 3, and I just play continuously, have maybe a 10 or 15 minute break, but there's no singing. Even if I tried to sing, you wouldn't be able to really decipher it. And I am not even writing a list of songs to do. They're just coming out of some part of the brain I'm very grateful for. And but I'm realizing, wait a minute, you never played the melody of Stardust, or you never played the melody of this particular song. You've always sung it. How on earth do you think you can play it? And sometimes it's just like magic that my fingers are moving and I can't believe that it's happening. And other times I'm getting like either I'm playing the note above the melody note or the note below the melody note. And then I'm like, I'm doing it really fast so they're not listening to me. And it's like, oh my God, I've got to learn this. Some of them really do deserve to be learned, and you have to have it in your fingers.
Well, I mean,
it's an interesting process.
But do you think it's really like a Zen process that you're in, that you are just so much in the moment of what you're doing that you're not really thinking about it's happening, because it's such ingrained, like we don't think about words coming out of our mouth or walking or talking or anything. It's such a natural part of who and what you're all about.
Well, I appreciate your saying that, because it's really gotten me to wonder about it. And it has to be that. And I've been doing it all my life. And listen, I'm not going to tell you the numbers of my age, but I came to New York after college. It was the mid-70s, so you can figure it out. And I'm forgetting names, and I'm forgetting things that I just did, or where I put the pen in 2 seconds ago. You know all of that. And
of course I know all of that.
How am I going to get along in this world? But I'm still able to use my Amex.
Speaking of financial stability,
that's it. Oh man, that's it.
Yes. Well, you mentioned that your father
was reality. I don't know, but it is a fascinating process.
you mentioned that your father was a musician. Can you tell us a little bit about your father and on what level that your father was a musician? Was he a professional musician? Did he teach? Tell us a little bit about your father.
He started playing music on his own. As he said, all the Jewish boys had to learn the violin first. And when he was in the army, they gave him a trombone. Somebody taught him how to play it. And I don't know, it kept him from doing whatever miserable things that you do in the army. But it didn't keep him from being out on the front, because he loved to tell war stories about driving the ambulance with his buddy. But he also played in bands during the war. And he's New York born, but raised in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. The family moved there. The Shermans moved there. And after the war, the Shermans and his brother went back to Woonsocket, Rhode Island, and started a family restaurant. And my father went to New York, to Manhattan, to try and make it in the music business. And he did pretty well. He got big band jobs, and he got small group jobs, and he did a little bit of traveling. And then one summer, he was booked at one of those Catskills places called the Nemersons. And the piano player in the band was Cy Coleman.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
I think he was already Cy Coleman, but he was also Seymour Kaufman. He was working his way through Juilliard. And my mother, who was from the Bronx, was working her way through Hunter, majoring in Latin and Spanish, and was assigned to serving the musicians. And my father would always boast. He said, Cy had his eye on your mom, but I got her.
God bless him.
Cy Coleman could have been my father. You
could have been Daryl Coleman.
Could have been somebody. I would have been Sweet Charity. No.
Yes.
It's okay. It's okay the way things turn out.
No, it's
but anyway, he played the trombone. He played in bands. He was quite good. He loved jazz. I think if he had stayed in New York, maybe he would have gotten into the studios. But the family was kind of saying when you were going to get a real job. And my mother was wanting to get out of the Bronx and thought she would continue her education in Woonsocket. Well, she got a totally different education than she expected moving to Woonsocket. But what happened was he joined the family restaurant business, and the apron that he wore would turn into a tuxedo on the weekends. And he, as long as I can remember it, he always had a gig. He led his own quartets in the area. Sometimes they traveled a little bit, and he, through those years, I'd see him at the table writing out the parts for the trombone in his key, and then things where he would either have a piano player with him or a guitarist, or an accordionist who was not just Lady of Spain, knew how to play, hip music. And they were all my mentors. And when I was old enough to behave myself or whatever, on my 13th birthday, for instance, I was able to go to the place. It was a restaurant. They were the supper clubs in those days, and sit in with the band.
Well,
and later on, as I developed through high school, and he had a quartet gig on the weekends, I would sit in and that's how I learned the standards and the keys. And he encouraged me to also learn how to sing from the piano. But in memory, I have to say, we didn't have anybody, at least locally, for a role model to do that, like a Blossom Dearie, who would have, I probably, would never have been able to see her until I moved to New York. Mm-hmm. But I was then just interested. I was living in here, and I didn't really know much about theater, and I didn't really know much about different composers, only the things you would hear on the radio. That was Frank Sinatra singing this song by Cole Porter. I mean, most of that passion and the work time spent on it was once I moved to New York. But I would just go through these song folios, and some of them were no strings that was popular at that time, or what was coming into the jazz world anyway was what they called fake books.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And they really looked, and my father said, these are illegal. It's like he came in with drugs. But and some of them were categories, some of them were not. It would just be, you would just see something from Fiddler on the Roof, and then you would see Willow Weep for Me, and then some other song. And I just spent hours running through them and saying, I like this one. Oh, When Sunny Gets Blue. And I was just running through them, and for no particular reason. I didn't have anything in mind that I was going to get a job doing this, or I was going to be on the stage. I don't know what it was. It was just like Alice in Wonderland.
No, well, I was going to ask, do you recall the first time that you saw your father on stage and what that experience was like for you?
Well, it wasn't, well, actually, that 13th birthday in the place that we went, they actually were on a stage. So that was more formidable.
Mm-hmm.
And he would wear not so much a tuxedo, but, tie. And he was very businesslike with who would take the solos and all of that. But it was later in a restaurant right off the main street of Woonsocket called Ciro's when I really did the most singing with the band, and even got some billing. And the owner was a guy called Curly. He was totally bald, so they called him Curly.
Of course.
He would go over to my dad and he'd say, "Well, Sam, she's improving." She's improving.
Now, were you a singer at a microphone, or were you always at the piano?
No, in this case, I'm sorry, I didn't mention that. Thank you. No, that was standing up, which I was just as comfortable doing. Mm-hmm. And he was a hard taskmaster about musicians still to this day, but they can't so much anymore because singers now have so much better educations on so many levels of terms of music and all of that. Mm-hmm. But at that time, people would want to sing and not know the song or not know the key and be ridiculous. So he said, you have to be professional and you have to know your key and tell them that you want to go back to the bridge, or when you get to the ending, you mm-hmm. say, take it out. All these little things, which is what we did. And learning, in this case, people were dancing. So I'd come up and sing when they call me to. What do you got in this tempo? What have you got in this key? Or something. So I would learn that. And if more people came up to dance, they would go into another song. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'd sing it, and sometimes I'd just have to go and sit down.
When did opportunities start happening when you started getting called to sing with other bands outside of your father?
Oh, not that many, actually.
Oh, okay.
Got it. Well, I mean, I was still in high school, and I had I was busy with the high school band and playing for the chorus and stuff. So, but wait a minute. Thank you. I did get something a little bit on my own. It wasn't with a band. It was doing a solo piano thing. And it was, it was my first so-called professional gig. It was at a place called Chappie's Supper Club where they had a rock band, but they happened to have an old spinet piano at the bar. And you'd have to walk up some steps because it was up this platform. So you were sitting above the bar playing piano on the breaks when the rock band took a break, and I got $20.
Good for you. That's good. And as all this is going on, Daryl, as this was all happening, were you thinking at all of a career in this business? Were you thinking, did you have aspirations that you were going to go to New York to pursue this as a career?
At that time, no. I had never really considered New York, even though, my mother was from there. We had relatives there, and we visited a few times. I was, okay. I feel like I'm in therapy. This is...
No, I'm sorry. I'm interested.
No, because I'll tell you, because my father, as you can tell, was I was the firstborn, and he was making me into his image. And I was fine with that. And he would even take me places to hear jam sessions. It wasn't at night. It was usually maybe in the late afternoon, to bars, but not to drink or anything, but just to sit in with and see other musicians. That's why I'm so comfortable with them. And I've just heard 40 years later from my aunt that my mother was really upset about that.
What was your father's name again?
Sammy.
Sammy, you took her to another bar today.
But here's the thing. He gave me mixed messages. Well, you're my daughter, so of course you're talented. But jazz is for rarefied audiences, and you'll never make any money. You can't be successful doing that. So you should do something else. Teach. Well, I didn't want to teach music. It's something that I did naturally. I was just, to this day, except for working with, interestingly enough, with singers on repertoire and interpretation, and occasionally a piano student, I majored in languages. I majored in Spanish. And maybe that was also just that mixed message I was getting.
So how long was it after finishing high school that you did make the move to New York?
I was, what happened? Although I was majored in Spanish, and I actually had maybe just 2 or 3 interviews for a job. The most interesting one was in New Bedford area. New Bedford, Fall River is interesting. That's Massachusetts, but very
yes, I know it very well.
And lots of Portuguese and Afro-American communities and Spanish mixed. And they, when we spoke, they told me they wanted to possibly have a bilingual program for the I don't know, I think it was like the primary school, the younger kids, and they were interested that if I could speak enough Spanish and yet teach the music as well, they were interested. But naturally, they were going to look for a native speaker, which I didn't blame them in that. I wasn't. Mm-hmm. And 1 or 2 other jobs, and then I was on tour with the University of Rhode Island jazz band, and one of the schools that we went to, the music department chair knew my dad, knew a little bit about me, and talked my head off about how he had gone through 30 different music teachers in 2 years and couldn't find one who'd lasted, and we just need someone with talent. And I thought to myself, there has to be something more to this. Why are they all leaving? Well, guess what? My father said, take the job. You can live home. You can save money. financial security. Here we go. Everything is tying in.
Yes. See?
Yeah. All that it was. So that's what I did. And I actually tried to teach music. I had to go back and take a few courses just to get, whatever. And I lasted a year and a third. But I was also gigging in between. I was playing in a couple of different places, doing piano and singing in restaurants and stuff, just to keep that going. And but it wore me down, and I said, this is not for me. And I left. I went to Europe for a month or so, and then when I came back, that's when I more seriously started working with trios in Providence.
Now, when you went to Europe, was that just strictly for enjoyment, or were you working in Europe? Okay.
No. Just to go to Spain, because I still loved my El Mundo Hispanico. And when I came back, I was playing mostly, weekends with a bass player and drummer, which really helped me to learn how to do that. I couldn't get that from my dad as well. And have my own apartment, and I worked a few other places. One was called Chateau de Ville. Here we go. This is such a good lead-in. The Chateau de Ville at that time was dinner theater places in New England, and they had rotating actors, stars who were doing a run. Sylvia Sims, can you see this?
No, raise it, because I know all about this. Sylvia Sims did Hello Dolly.
Yes, she did. Yeah.
Yes.
So I was working a couple of nights a week there, but I never even got to see the show, the theater part. And I finished my set, and I walked down, and a woman in a dress like this, very short, came over to me with this very deep voice. "Hello, young lady. You have a very nice feel for jazz." And I thought, oh my God, I haven't met anybody here who's mentioned anything like that to me. So I said, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." And I said, do you live here in Warwick?" "Oh my God." She said, "I happen to be
Oh my God.
Yes, it was. Oh my God, I wanted to just die.
Oh, for those of you who don't know, Sylvia Sims, one of the top jazz singers in the world.
So what do you think? I mean, here in Rhode Island and in New York, once I got to New York, mob joints, that is what's missing from our business now.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, good music, good to the musicians.
Oh my God.
Well, this was one of them. This was one of them. And some gavone come up to me, and I'm playing with them. I wasn't even just solo. I had a group, and he said, "Play my way." Puts $100 bill in this glass. So of course I played it, and when I looked up, the glass and the $100 bill were missing. Oh well, characters.
Oh, show business.
And Rex Reed, who I didn't get to meet there, but on another, clearly on the run, during the run, he came to see Sylvia. And one of these guys there had something, who knows why, you never ask. But Rex told me, he came over to me. This man came over to me, and he said, "Are you Rex Reed?" And Rex goes, "Why, yes." And he opened his arms, and the guy threw a drink in his face.
Well,
that's
let me tell
Rhode Island.
This is the honest truth. This, and I've lost weight recently, but I was mistaken everywhere I went for Rex Reed. everywhere. And
Whoa.
so
I could see a little.
so we'd go out to dinner, and people were constantly coming over. And just like 6 months ago, someone came up to me and said, do you mind if my daughter has her picture taken with you? And I said, sure. And then afterwards he said, you are Rex Reed, aren't you? And I said, no. And Barbara Barry, do you know Barbara Barry, the actress?
Yeah.
They live in the same building. And every time she would see me on the street, she would say, Rex. And she'd say, I've done it again. And I would say, but it's an icebreaker. At least it gives you a chance to say hello to me. But no one ever threw a drink in my face. Thank God.
Yeah. Well, but I made Rex feel a lot better with one visit back to Rhode Island. I found out that same guy, it's like did you see these things on television all the time? He got shot through his window. So
no,
I don't think it was Rex who did the hit on him, but
no, don't even put that out there. No.
These things really happen. But I worked another place, a wonderful place called the Gaslight, and had wonderful jazz trios and singers that I would go to hear. And the owner heard me at the Chateau de Ville and hired me for that. And it was with this particular drummer who kind of took it upon himself to mentor me a little bit. And I a great bass player named Bill Brito can teach you so much about harmony, where to go. I thought I was going to go here, and then I hear where he's going. I realized, okay, this is better. It was a great experience, but also a learning experience being in these sophisticated places. One night on a break, I noticed the mayor of my hometown. And I mean, I went to school with at least one of his kids, his daughters. And I was like so innocently happy to see him. Walked over to him and said, "Oh, it's so nice to see you," and just talked about something that I remembered from one of his daughters, and called his wife by name. And I don't know, after about 5 or 10 minutes, the woman is throwing darts at me with her eyes and takes me aside and says, "I'm not Connie." To this day,
my God.
To this day, I remember that. And don't ask any questions, and don't go over and assume anything with anybody. It's the best thing you can learn.
Oh my God. Well, I've always said, to Danny, my husband, another Sherman, I said, you never have to worry about me ever cheating on you, because too many people know me. I could never go out with anybody else, because somebody would see me and they would say, Danny, I saw Richard out last night with somebody else. It's never going to happen. So.
But hey, I needed to learn about these things, John. It was an education, and it was the drummer who encouraged me to leave and get better. He said, "You're good. You've got a lot of potential, but you've got a lot to learn, and you should go to New York." I have to confess, it really hadn't occurred to me. But so that's when I started taking feeler trips, and then I moved there.
So when you moved to New York, you came to New York in the 70s. I also came to New York in the 70s. It was a very from South Carolina.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yes.
Where?
Myrtle Beach, just outside of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And I grew up in a very small southern town. It was a very different New York from what it is even now. But the New York nightlife at that time, even as crazy as it was, it truly was the city that never slept. And it was great, the nightlife scene in New York. Do you miss that feel in New York City?
You know what? Is this going to sound so, I don't know, sci-fi to you or weird? I've, more than ever in these past couple of years, want so to remember better those years. Because they were so interesting and formative and just, and I wish that, will science ever find the rings of the tree trunk in our brain, and so you can pinpoint and stick a needle there and say, I want to go to April. It doesn't have to be the exact day of 1974 or 1975.
Daryl, you and I are on the same wavelength. I agree with you.
Yeah?
I really wish that we could do it. And I'll tell you what it is. I also think that there's something nostalgic about what I consider like the Hunger Years. When you're in New York, you're struggling, but you've got all these friends. So many of my friends from that era are still friends of mine from that era. When you're in New York together, you're struggling, you're feeling your oats, you're discovering who you are, what you are, where you are, how you are.
Did you find a job right away, or were you?
I got a job the second day that I was in New York.
Wow!
As a messenger for $6 an hour. At 55 Water Street, which was great to get a job.
55 Water Street. That's wild. Wow.
And it was great because it gave me a chance as a messenger to really get to learn Lower Manhattan. And and I found this wonderful lady at this should be about you, but I had this mentor who took me under her wing, and every Sunday afternoon, she would teach me something new about New York, whether it be having my first pastrami sandwich, or going for my first bagel, or going on the Staten Island Ferry, or going to St. Patrick's Cathedral. I mean, it truly was like Auntie Mame and Patrick.
And how did you meet this friend?
I met her at my first audition in New York.
Oh, this is wonderful. So you did go to audition.
Oh, yeah. I went to my first audition. I came to New York to be an actor. I knew to pick up backstage and to jump right in and to get started. So I was ready. And so what was the first gig?
I have so many memories of getting started there. And some of them were before I actually moved. I was staying with my Aunt Mary in Co-op City. And then I would take the bus or subway in to town, and I would find, nobody told me to do this, but of course I had my father, you got to look up Cy Coleman. Maybe he can do something for you. So I eventually did. But in the interim, I found at that time the Americana Hotel was a good location to be. And they had this when you walk in, you go to the right, the French Quarter. I think that was the lounge. I eventually got to play there. I had so many great memories of that hotel, and even after it changed to becoming a Sheraton. And I would have lots of quarters. Well, we're so old thinking about this. Quarters for the payphone.
Yes.
Okay. And I would go and would look in I would circle apartments, and I would circle, it was silly because agents didn't really advertise in the paper, but I was just seeing what would lead to what, and getting some leads on some kind of music agencies and just figuring it out. And the payphones were in the back, and to the left was a men's store. And I was always running out of change. So I would just go into the men's store, and I ended up not having enough, but having a friendship with this guy who ran the store, had this handlebar mustache. And he got this cake. Oh my God, this girl is just fresh off the boat from Rhode Island. What a heck. And she's on the payphone doing this and that and going back into the room. But it was, and I wish I had that moxie now. What's happened to me?
Oh, you trust me, you've still got it. Well, we're gonna have a little fun here because I end the shows with my homage to James Lipton inside the Actors Studio. The word for the day, as we all know, is financial stability. So everyone has a chance to win your CD, and this album is called. I love this title. I'm a dreamer, aren't we all? And you're going to hold it up here. And they have the option. I'm getting it from Amazon, and you can get either the vinyl. It's still available on vinyl.
Well, even if you can't play it on vinyl, guess what? Because I think what the CD cut off part of the picture, and you won't see my waist. And I actually had a waist then.
Wow.
I'm standing on a ladder. And my kid brother, Michael, who was at NYU then, worked for the Cinema Village. And he got them to allow us to use the theater at 6:30 on a Sunday morning to do the photo. And I'm on the marquee with Mike Renzi and Dave McKenna.
Wow.
And my two piano heroes, and both of them, very different stylistically, both loved each other and really considered worldwide top draw pianists.
Wow.
We so miss Mike Renzi.
So do I.
That is not supposed to happen.
No, it wasn't. So this is my homage to James Lipton inside the Actors Studio. I've got some random questions that I'm going to ask you. And the first question is, I have this daily calendar on my desk. Here's from the daily calendar here. And I've got this question. It says, when something is taken away from me, it makes me appreciate what remains even more. And if something has been taken away from me, from my life lately, whether it's a physical object that's broken, a relationship that's ended, or a career opportunity that fell through, let me savor what's left and find a new appreciation for it. We've gone through a lot over the last 2 years where things that we've appreciated in the past are not necessarily there for us anymore in the way that we appreciated them before. Even going to the theater, going to all the things that we do. What has the last 2 years taught you, Daryl, about the things that you've appreciated in your life and in your career?
Well, it started really even before the pandemic. We can't blame it on the bossa nova either, but just this our little world and community of music, jazz and cabaret, all appreciate that body of music between the world wars. And although it's still there, I think I've become all the more cognizant of how far we have gone ahead and how much the world has changed. And the kind of jobs in the hotels where I was able to get a little bit of financial stability because they paid okay. They paid union scale, but at least the union in the 80s had negotiated some things for us. But not just for the money. I think, and again, you can't blame the pandemic for this, but the audience for this music has been of a certain age. And I see, I'm noticing it more and more in this building I'm playing, because I'm observing the people coming in and out. And they are a totally different generation. I have one guy, his name is Rob. I don't even think he's 30, but he gives me hope because people like him are a tabula rasa. They're young enough that they don't have that prejudice that this is old and look, we shouldn't pay any attention to this. But in general, the way that music is performed and played, and now because of the pandemic, people are learning that it's okay to do something online and present yourself online, and that's considered as legitimate a business, and it certainly is to be admired. But for people like me, it makes me feel more prehistoric than ever.
Wow.
That okay, everything's in your cell phone, and even even musicians, classical musicians, even people older than me are getting themselves used to maybe using a tablet, and I'm seeing more and more of tablets being used even in the orchestras. And I should applaud the technology and the advances that we've made. And I know it's about time I get one and try it out myself, but there's something about a piece of music in front of you. Not that I like to have it in front of me all the time because I need eye contact with people, but that we're losing all of this sheet music that I have stacked up here. And I spent years with the New York Sheet Music Society, going to their meetings and collecting these things and having people send me all this stuff. And I'm saying, for what? It's just making me aware of that. And I think, and getting together with people, face to face and in touch. I find it's funny because I love talking, as you can see, and yet I've sort of withdrawn into the quiet. And I happened to visit my young brother Michael, who now is in LA, and I was fixing my hair as we were ready to get to the airport for me to fly back, and he said, "Daryl, I thought I should tell you this. I don't want you to be upset, but I just think you should know. You were talking to yourself the whole time." So I looked at him. I said, "Michael, I find myself very funny."
Good for you. Good for you. Maybe you've answered this next question. And the next question is, what is the best possible attitude to have in this business?
Well, you cannot take yourself too seriously. But I was given that advice by the best. Barbara Carroll, a wonderful mentor who I got to know better thanks to Sylvia Sims, would always say to me, "Oh, Daryl, it's just a gig." We'd be backstage at the cabaret convention, or waiting all night, and you just get more nervous because you're just sitting there. And Sylvia always saying, "Stop listening to the sound of your voice and find the part of the song that for you is the punchline and work from there." And that and it's not, this is what I tell myself also, and I have to keep reminding myself, it's not about you, it's about the song. If you pick a good enough song,
okay,
that song's going to work for you.
Great. Did you make any new connections this week?
Connections. Well, literally just on a router that with a human being who actually came in.
Touche. Very good. She's got hundreds of them. She's here all night. Well, good for you. Who is the scariest person that you encountered this week?
Oh, this week. Oh. Well, you scared me a little bit with your list things.
Did I really?
Like, no.
Just the instructions on how to get on tonight.
Well, I get scared at things that are that
technical,
that bring out that bring out the just the neurotic side. Like once you like I'm going to be. I always think, oh, I said the wrong thing, or I didn't do this, or I played recently at Mesro, which is finally opened and trying to flow. It's one of that cellar jazz club, and I generally wait before I get in touch to go back, or sometimes it's nice that they ask me back, but and I just decided to suggest, because of the person that I was working with, Houston person, who was in his 80s but busier than ever, might be busy. So here's a possible week or two. And interestingly enough, he came back to me and gave me a date. And then when I ran it by Houston said, "Oh my gosh, I've just booked my band someplace else," and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And I've had the hardest time just getting back to taking care of business and saying, well, how should I do this? I have to thank this guy for giving me that date. And then I just get myself crazed.
Wow.
And things like that happen.
Okay.
And I was so excited when I finally thought to do this show that I'm going to do in now 2 weeks at Birdland on two heroes of mine, Blossom Deary and Dave Frischberg. And I thought, oh gosh, there's so many nice interesting songs to choose from. And then, thank you. And then when Jay Lenhart signed on, now he's really excited about it too, because he's on so many of Blossom's albums. Songs there's so many songs that she's recorded of her own that probably most people haven't heard. But now that we're starting to work on it, we're having fun, but they're hard. The stuff is really, particularly Dave Frischberg, he is a masterful pianist. And people will tell you anyway, all the singers will say, oh, he complained that I changed a word. Oh my God, never mind a word. He'll put a chord here and 3 other chords there with different harmonies that are like all over the place. And he's brilliant. And he can do it. And it sounds so easy when he does it. But now that we're starting to work on the songs, it's going, oh my God. So wow. It's challenging.
Wow.
Very challenging. So I both love the process. I love the process because that's when I really immerse myself and read up. I mean, none of it ends up not getting into the show because you don't have much time. You have an hour and 10 or an hour and 15. But that's why I do it, because I feel connected.
Well, that's wonderful.
That was the connection, actually.
That's the connection.
That's the connection.
That's great. Well,
yeah.
Based on the week that you've just had, what's one question that you feel that you need to ask yourself more often?
Did you have to have the tiramisu?
And the answer?
And I thought to myself, well, no, but I had the red wine, and it's the red wine that wants it.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Now, being playful is a great way to blow off steam when you're stressed. So in what way are you going to be playful after tonight's interview?
Well, I'm going to get out of this tiny apartment this is my sanctuary. This is my crypt. This is my archive. It's everything. This is only my second apartment. My first apartment was West End Avenue and 80th. And the person who helped me find it was Cy Coleman's secretary, who I got friendly with because I finally did meet Cy. I went to his office and And one time I was there, Sylvia was there. In fact, that's right. She was there, and I introduced myself, and I just told her that I was playing at the Chateau de Ville. I didn't tell her I didn't recognize her, but she said, "Oh, yes, I remember you. You were blah, 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 blah." And one thing led to another, and I started to go here, wherever I could. And the next year, in 1975, my mother died.
Oh.
And that's all she had to hear. And she said, "I'm going to be your other mother." Now, truthfully, between us, there was not much maternal about Sylvia. But she's very caring.
Well, God bless her.
And she's very much mentored. Yeah, very much. At 3 a.m. Yeah.
So what are you good at that might surprise people that don't know that you're good at it, besides music?
You know, I'm sure there was something, and I just can't think of it at the moment. Well, I don't know. Some people think I don't do very much anymore. Some people think I'm a pretty good cook. Certain things I can do well.
Okay.
Oh. What am I good at? Can I phone it in?
You can phone it in later.
I know there'd be something that you would never expect. It is something that you would never expect, but it's getting late, and I'm still thinking about I'm still thinking about what I'm going to do when I leave here, because I didn't even answer that. And I was going to go out for tiramisu, but I'm not now.
Okay. I'm here in Rockland County, so we're going to get together.
Is that where you are? Oh, okay.
I live in Rockland County, so we'll get together for that soon. What actions did you take this week on your career? I know that you had a rehearsal this afternoon for your upcoming show, so that's an action on your career.
Oh, well, as I was telling you, I was so nervous about responding that we couldn't do that date that he gave me. So I finally found something to say that was not too long, and told him that we're not going to take that date. But I sopple over those things. I go, well, I don't know if I should. Blah, blah. And what did I do for my career? What I did for love? I fixed a couple of things, so they're workable. I'm ordering a new microphone.
Oh, good.
I mean, little things like that.
What
do you mean? I just got these cards.
Oh,
I
good.
haven't printed cards in a long time.
Great.
So I'm going to go leaflet. That's what I'll do now. I'll go out on the street and leaflet.
So my last question tonight, tomorrow are the Oscars. What is your favorite movie song?
Of all time?
Of all time.
At the moment, and I've been playing it a lot, The Shadow of Your Smile.
Wow.
And for different reasons, because we were talking about, Jack Jones and Renzi. Some of us, and I was listening to two versions that Jack did. An earlier one that was with a big arrangement, and he was in a higher key, and then the later one that Mike Renzi played for him. And Mike doesn't generally, talk about his own playing per se. But he always mentioned that was one of the things that he was most proud of. and it was stunning. And I always used to like this song, and then I just, you just sort of forget about them and no reason to necessarily do it. So then I started playing it, and in fact, I don't know if we ever got to it, but I had it possibly to play when I played Mesro, but and that's Johnny Mandel. Oh, and I remember the film, and I don't remember much anymore, but I remember how it opens with the beach.
Yes.
And you don't see anybody; you just hear the trumpet, Jack Sheldon's trumpet.
I know, it is so beautiful.
Yeah.
One of our viewers does have a question for you. Barbara Lee George, thank you for watching, Barbara, wants to know what your favorite venue is.
Oh. Well, about favorite, but I have to say now with what we've got, you can't beat Birdland.
Yeah.
With both rooms, downstairs, how he was able to create that.
And you can all see her there on April 7th with Jilly.
But I love the upstairs as well. I still like hanging, just like at the bar there. You can't beat it, and the food has always been good.
And I want to, and some lucky person is going to get to have you in their homes all the time, because I'm giving away a free album or CD. See, look, this is how this happens. So
what are these names?
These are the people who are watching, because we're going to give Mitch Morrow is the winner. So
wow, hi Mitch.
Mitch.
I saw Michael Colby's name. How amazing!
Yeah, Michael Colby is watching as well.
He's the best.
Oh, I love Michael. And so Mitch.
I would have said the Algonquin if we could just go back 30 years.
Yes.
I want to go back to Michael Colby's bar mitzvah at the Algonquin.
Yeah, yes.
That's what I'd like.
Read the Algonquin Kid, everyone. So Mitch Morrow, please send me an email to richard@richardskipper.com and send me your email, your mailing address, so that I can get this CD or album, whichever you prefer, to you. Don't go anywhere for a moment. So don't forget to do that, richard@richardskipper.com. Thank you, Mitch. You're the winner tonight. So, Daryl, I hope you've had as much fun as I have tonight. Don't go anywhere for a moment.
We should just do this every week.
Every week we'll do this. Every Saturday night, join Daryl and I for the Skipper and Sherman show right here. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I know that I can speak for Daryl when I say this. We don't take it lightly when you show up. So thank you for showing up tonight and spending an hour with us, especially on a Saturday night when there are so many choices that you could have made. So thank all of you for being here tonight. If this was your first time at Richard Skipper Celebrates, I hope it will not be your last. Please subscribe, leave a comment on YouTube. Let us know what you think of the show. Share this with your friends. I also end all the shows by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list, and the 8th name that pops up, reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. And let that person know what they mean to you. As my dear friend Sean Moniger always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And you never know what someone else is going through right now. So reach out with a phone call and let them know what they mean to you. But I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. So, Daryl, I'm going to leave the screen and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything that you want to say about anything that we talked about tonight that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message that you want to leave everyone with tonight. Don't worry about how to end the show, because as soon as you say goodbye, the final credits will start to roll. I love you, Daryl. And thank you for being here tonight.
So good. Well, I want to interview you next. I want to be asking the questions.
Okay, next time we're going to do that. So
about you, but thank you.
Right now, it's all yours.
Thank you, and I thank my family, my siblings, for for caring for me. And I haven't been calling them very much or anybody very much, but maybe you all are bringing me out a little more from these 2 years of inner sanctum. And so thank you. And speaking of Birdland, that's April 11th. And by that time, I hope we will have decided which of the feast of songs there are from either Blossom or Dave Frischberg, and how lucky we are to have this music in our world. And particularly now, it's the best solace. And I wish you all well, and I hope to see you sometime soon. Bye-bye.